Hi, this is Stuart, just cutting in before the start of my podcast interview with screenwriter, author, singer-songwriter Geoff Deane, talking about his memoir, From Mohair Suits to Kinky Boots. This was a bit of an experiment, it turned out. The first 15 minutes or so were recorded using Google Meet, and the next 40 minutes were recorded using Zoom. It's safe to say that the audio quality on Zoom is far greater than Google Meet. If anyone can tell me why or how I can fix this problem, it will be gratefully received. But for now, on with the show. Welcome to another Britflicks.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today's guest is what I'm framing you as, a true polymath of pop culture. Are you having that one, Geoff Deane?
I'll be very happy with that, mate. Thank you very much, Stuart. Renaissance geezer works out well.
Renaissance geezer. We're here because you've written a book called From Mohair Suits to Kinky Boots, How Music, Clothes and Going Out Shaped My Life and Upset My Mother, which I'm guessing is a full-on memoir.
Actually, it's not. Not really. Despite what my publishers would have you believe, it isn't really. It's a series of essays and stories constructed very randomly, really, from different aspects of my life. From where I grew up in Hackney, my interest in clothes, my interest in music, my career in music, my career in film or telly, friends and family. But they're very random musings. I wrote it on the hoof, as it were.
Okay.
It was a lockdown conception. It began as some vignettes and stories I was just posting on social media for my own amusement.
I remember them.
People. Yeah, so it was really nice. After working in film, which, as you know, comes with so many constraints, and you're always part of a committee, Well,
look, before you get into it, maybe I should just say then, when I say you're a polymath, what I mean is you were a singer of the cult band Leighton Buzzards. You were the singer-songwriter with Modern Romance. You wrote the gay anthem, You Think You're a Man, for Divine. And then fast forward to 21st century, you're a screenwriter, best known now for Kinky Boots and It's a Boy Thing, and more recently, Book of Love. You've done some TV stuff. I think, is it Birds of a Feather? Is that one?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of TV in between. Yeah, did quite a lot of TV comedy, and I wrote for Jonathan Ross as well. I made a TV movie. I keep moving, mate. Every time I get rumbled, I move on.
But it's clear, obviously, and then the fashion and the music bit, they blur into each other, don't they? I guess in terms of their influence on one another when you were in the music, and having known you, just for the listeners' benefit, I first met you on a Liverpool podcast talking to a Tottenham fan.
That's right, yeah, and I'm still a Tottenham fan. And actually, what an extraordinary joyous time! You've caught me at such a fortuitous moment. For 5 years, I've been swerving the subject every time anyone brought it up, and suddenly, this magical thing has happened.
Some daft Aussies come into your life, hasn't he?
Oh, man. And it's kind of really important to me because football, to me, I'm a man of passions and a fanboy, as you know.
Yeah.
And I like things to be fun and exciting and inspiring. And that's what I get that from football, the same as I do my work. And I'm not one of these die-hard people that will sit there watching it every week when it's turgid and depressing. I've got way better things to do with my time, So, I mean, from that perspective, you could possibly call me a fair weather supporter, I suppose. But it's great that it's fun again. I don't care if we win the league or anything it's impossible. But it doesn't actually matter to me. The fact that it's fun and inspiring again, and I'm rushing to get home to watch a game or something like that, which I haven't been for so long. Yeah, I mean, you're a Liverpool fan, so you've had it better now, But it's just enjoyable when you're on a roll and there's a bit of momentum and it's fun again.
Absolutely. So So going back to when you start this book, so you're writing these sort of missives on social media to entertain yourself, and obviously friends of yours and people that don't know you but know of you. And then how does that sort of go over the hump of being something you're doing to entertain yourself almost to a serious proposition like developing it into a book?
Well, hundreds of people very kindly messaged me to say that we really like this, you've got to turn it into a book. And being the kind of expert businessman that I am, I completely ignored them, just what do you know? But then a chap called Maurice Grand, who I used to work for, one of the first jobs I had in TV was working for Birds of a Feather, and Maurice Grand and his partner Lawrence Marks, they created umpteen good TV shows. They're really good at it. Much better. I think I'm a really good writer. Lawrence and Maurice have great ideas, and they're really great at selling them.
Okay.
Well, far better than I am. I struggle with ideas generally. I labour for ages and ages for one idea for a film or a TV thing. It can take me years. They go to sleep and, kind of wake up with one. And Maurice got in touch and he said, "You're an idiot. Why don't you make this into a book?" I went, "Oh, all right, that's a good idea. Thanks, Maurice." because basically I listened to him.
Right, okay.
And I spoke to a friend of mine, Kimberly Chambers, she's a Tottenham supporter as well. I was doing a bit of work with her, trying to help. I was hired by a publisher to try and help convert some of her books into TV.
Yeah, she's a novelist, isn't she, Kimberly?
Yeah. And, we're really good mates. So I asked her a little bit, because I genuinely didn't really know about how to get a book published. She gave me a kind of few tips. A couple of publishers were a bit bemused by it because it wasn't like a full autobiography. But, my attitude to autobiographies really is that they're for people who have led truly exceptional lives, or are so famous that you don't notice that they haven't led truly exceptional lives. And, I don't really think I'm either of that, really. And I read a lot of autobiographies and skip huge chunks, which I'm not interested in. So this is kind of like the good bits, if you know what I mean. I decided I wanted to stick to that. I don't want to expand it into a fuller, more rigorous autobiography. It's just, it doesn't really interest me. It's like, as I say, it's a collection of stories that are emotional, or mainly fun, really.
Yeah.
I like funny books. I like funny people. I like funny movies. So that was kind of how it went, and then that was it really. And suddenly it all came together, and it's like, oh blimey, And this always happens with me, because like I've never really made a decision to do anything in my life. I never made a decision to go into music, to get out of music, to go into telly, to go into film. I've never had the forethought or the planning. It's all kind of just, I don't know, there's a door open and you stagger through it or trip up, and suddenly you find that you're there. And once you're doing that, you seem to have, unfortunately, left other things behind, which you didn't always mean to do.
Yeah.
And then later on, I went, why aren't I doing that anymore? Well, because you stopped doing it, you idiot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of worked a little bit like that, and so it is with this thing. And what's been interesting, is I think one of the nicest. I feel very unauthory. They're asking me about doing literary festivals and the like, and I was like, "Oh, don't know." But what's been quite good is I've been doing some readings.
Yeah.
But they're kind of quite funny, and they're almost like a reading verging a little bit towards the stand-up kind of thing, which I didn't really expect. It just happened kind of fluidly,
But I guess David Sedaris has done that for a long while, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But it's not something that was at the fore of my mind. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, but it's like how much I'm enjoying it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
this is not a chore to do. It's actually a nice thing, and I haven't interacted with an audience directly since the band days, and I realised kind of how much I like it. And
Yeah.
you know, it's great that audiences are just the best thing, and they're the best yardstick you can ever have for how your material's working, or it's like you can't argue with it, man.
No.
It beats all the market research in the world. People clap and laugh, or they just don't laugh at a joke. It's there. It's all there for you, and I'm really enjoying it. I like that intimate feedback that you get. Yeah, it's cool.
I'm going to say, but it's almost like the opposite of writing, which is such a solo pursuit. Whether it be screenplay, songwriting, or writing these sort of funny parts of your life as you want to identify them. Then suddenly to be in front of an audience, that's the opposite of writing, isn't it?
Well, it is really, but even going into the kind of writing thing, I mean, even that was kind of a bit of an accident, because I can remember I kind of missed the beginning of the alternate comedy thing, so I was busy in the band. I mean, I knew about it, but I wasn't involved. But when I found my interest in music at that time faded, comedy was a thing that was on my mind, and my first thing was, I'm going to have a go at doing stand up. And I went out to all the clubs checking everything out, but this time it was a little bit past the beat, and you were getting all those gross city boys out, kind of a bit beard up, making life very difficult for the performers, and the performers having to verbally deal with them in a humorous fashion, make it in a humorous fashion. And I thought, I know me, and I hit someone. You know what I mean? I cannot do this. You cannot put me up in front of these kind of people. I will not. I won't be Frank Skinner. I will not be funny. I'll be really angry. So I decided that writing might be a better idea, and it was a great period for. I've been a big fan of that. There was like a Friday night on Channel 4 for a long time, which is the best of American sitcom. With like Cheers and Golden Girls and early Roseanne. Back in the day when she was bonkers enough to marry Tom Arnold, but not yet vote for Donald Trump. And those shows had a really big influence on me. So I thought, kind of have a go at writing one.
So when you were writing this memoir, and I asked this about people that do documentaries, but I think because you've sort of almost, even if it's edited highlights or not everything about your life, but it's the things that you find interesting and entertaining, what do you feel what perception about yourself do you think has changed or altered from before you started writing the book to having now written the book? Having almost like self-analyze yourself.
Okay, yeah. That's a really astute question. I'm very much a person who, I think professionally, and socially, I kind of live in the now quite a lot, and always have done, which means one of the downsides of that is you leave other things behind. I mean, I intimated before that I've kind of left some work things behind,
Yeah.
I realise, to my regret, that I think I'd also done that with people along the way. And I realised the fact that I was writing about them, and some people's names came up quite a lot, that they were important people who I loved. And maybe, that was, I could have done better.
Yeah.
So I've kind of actually reached out to some people as a result of it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, can do better. That's kind of what I thought, really. But that's when you are so, everyone always says to you, it's really great to live in the now. Well, I'm really good at living in the now, but I think it also has its disadvantages. And I realised, right, and so much about my past, and much more. And like some people that have, I mean, generally the response to the book has been fabulous, and I'm really grateful. But one or two people have kind of sort of said, I'm surprised there's not more about film or there's not more about music. I think, well, maybe that's just an accurate representation of where everything sits within me.
Yeah.
So, and, as I say, that the contents were not thought about. It was, I wrote this story if I wanted to, then another one. When I had to, copy check it, I actually read the whole book for the first time.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of weird. And I actually thought, even though it is kind of very random, actually, if you do put it all together, it gives you a pretty good idea of what I'm like, for better or for worse, and what my life has been like as well. I think it does. It gives you as good an idea as if it was a full representation, which might be luck, or maybe that's just instinctively how it's worked out.
And thinking about the sort of subtitle to your book, how much do you think, if your mother could be here to read the book, how much do you think it would upset her?
It's hard to say. I mean, she was my biggest critic, but she was also my biggest fan. She was also like she was like a passive aggressive tsunami with a PhD in emotional manipulation as well. I mean, she didn't approve originally of my career choices. I mean, I walked out of law college after 3 weeks and got a job in a clothes shop. And as I say, she was like the archetypal Jewish mother about that. But ultimately, she was a supporter. When the band started doing well, she would listen to John Peel every night. This East End Jewish woman suffering through Cabaret, Voltaire, and whatever to get to the Leighton Buzzards. And then later on, during the golden age of the VCR, when I started getting stuff on telly, she'd record everything. She always struggled with a timer. I can remember once she told me that she said, one of your shows was on last night, and I set the timer on, and I really missed it. She said, and I missed it. I said, oh, that's a drag. She said, no, I said it was all right because it just recorded your name at the end. She said, you know what I mean? It was like, it was kind of what she really cared about. But yeah, I don't know. No, I think, she would be happier with a book than anything else, really. I had a really very blue-collar working class upbringing, as you know, but my mum was the one that, she would, I don't know, correct my spelling, correct my grammar and things like that habitually. I mean, absolutely habitually. And kind of, the only thing I was ever really half good at was kind of English at school, really.
Okay.
And I think perhaps, a book might be something she might finally take her hat off to, But as I say, she was very supportive of all the other things as well, or indulgent, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, look, if I can indulge myself in one more question, only because I know half the story, because I've asked this before. I remember watching a Top of the Pops clip of yourself performing Modern Romance, and you're all wearing like naval outfits, but you're wearing this wonderful string vest. And I just want you to just with you saying how music and clothes was part of your life, like just to paint a picture of how different it was in a world now dominated with stylists and people with brands. How did that outfit come together? I'll tell you exactly what happened. I mean, at the beginning, we were, I was a clothes maniac, so I was going out and buying the clothes or ordering them or having them made and designed for us. As you get busier, that gets kind of harder to do, so you end up kind of delegating. And I think that was just about the time record companies and whatever were starting to stick their free agents within, And I think we'd been on tour and we came back to record the Top of the Pops, and there were all these naval outfits waiting for us. We looked like the fucking cast of Love Boat, right? And I'm like, it had nothing to do. There was no naval link to the music at all. And I'm like, this is bizarre, and I'm really not happy going on dressed like, like the crew of VSS Love Boat or whatever.
So I legged it and I went down Lawrence Corner. Do you remember Lawrence Corner? It was like, were you in London then for Lawrence Corner?
No, I don't think I was. No.
It's this fantastic kind of military and naval second-hand shop that used to be on the Euston Road. It was absolutely brilliant. You know, it was like this sort of, it was absolutely brilliant. Used to get loads of clothes in there. And I got myself a really nice pair of long white naval shorts, you know, the type that you'd wear in the tropics, a string vest and a Popeye cap, which I thought looked pretty good, but it was also a bit of a protest to the clothes that the record company had bought for us. And I noticed that in the latest Dexys tour, Kevin Rowland is wearing a very similar hat. So, you know, I was ahead of the curve, baby.
Well, look, thanks for sharing that little introduction then to From Mohair Suits to Kinky Boots, how music, clothes and going out shaped my life and upset my mother. Let us now talk about 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Now, that's grander than maybe you might have anticipated before you come on, but we will get through this in a way that gets us some stories linked to your love of film. And when those passions are running highest, like you said before, you're either all in or you're all out in terms of your love of any kind of.
I am a little like that. I mean, one film that had a really strong impact on me, and it's not the kind of film you would associate with me, oddly enough, but Jaws was one. I mean, obviously, it was probably the first film that was ever called a blockbuster, so it's an obvious film to like. It's a brilliant film. But it was something different that happened. When I was watching it, I don't know, what's the word? I had like a revelation.
Where'd you see it for the first time?
Just a local cinema. Would have been just a regular local cinema. What was it? Mid-70s?
Yeah, 75, 76.
Yeah. It would have been just a regular local cinema. It was the first time I can remember sitting there watching a film. And I was a film fan, always was a film fan, and thinking to myself, this isn't really a film about a shark.
It's not.
I'm hardly seeing the shark. It's a film about these 3 blokes in a room and who they are and how they interact and what their different pressures are and their competition with each other and what they've got going on in their lives. It's putting these 3 people together and just cranking the pressure up. I kind of worked that out. And I think that's the first time I'd ever kind of, what's the word? I don't know, looked behind the scenes, looked into how something was working.
Yeah.
And it just happened. And I can remember running around saying to my friends, this is not a film about a shark. This is a film about 3 men. Fuck off, you mug. It's called Jaws. Of course it's about a shark, you know. But it was quite a big deal to me, that. And it was something I started doing then, you know, taking things to bits a little bit, looking at them, trying to work out how they worked. And I mean, with my hands, I am terrible. I can't fix anything. I can barely do my shoes up, you know. I can't draw. I can't fix it, you know, hopeless. But I do kind of think that mentally I'm pretty good at kind of disassembling stuff and working it out and putting back together again. And I think that has served me pretty well, because I think I've learned to write songs from that, and TV and film to a degree. It's all come from being a fan and looking and listening to things that you think are really good and thinking, you know, why is that so good? And watching it and rewatching it and rewatching it, you know, and as I say, it served me pretty well, really. And that was the beginning of it. It was very much, I can actually, you know, that. And
had you begun songwriting at that point?
Not really. No, the songwriting wouldn't have started. Songwriting started about 77.
Okay.
You know, and I listened to loads of records that I liked, you know, and I started and literally got a pen and paper out, you know, which is much what I did with TV and with film. You know, just started making notes. This is what you need to do to make a good film. You know, this is what you need to do to make a good song. This is the structure. This is the form. This is what you're looking for. You know, this is what you need to do to make a good song. This is the structure. This is the form. This is what you're looking for. You know, this is the structure. This is the form. This is what you're looking for. You know, this is the structure. This is the form. This is what you're looking for. And obviously you don't get it entirely right first time, but actually having a blueprint, you know, is a really good kickoff in the right direction. You know, it's why, you know, most writers start writing, and the biggest mistake is having no plan, and they write, and then they might maybe write 50 great pages or 30 great pages, and then they don't know where to go next because it has a, you know, and it's just like having a working blueprint, and that's been kind of helpful to me, having that ability. You know, so say I was never fortunate enough to, you know, I didn't go to any kind of music school. I didn't go to any film school or anything like that.
Yeah.
I left school. I left school pretty young, so it's all been kind of learnt on the hoof. And I think that, in a way, I think that's a blessing. It's fortuitous because, you know, you don't. I didn't have to listen to some failed screenwriter lecturing me on film like my son did when he went to uni.
Right.
You know, I got to learn from really great writers and directors that I was going to watch.
I guess that's the thing, isn't it? Because a producer I work with called Keith Bell, he always talks about the fact that the one thing we've got is our own taste. And if we can channel that into our work, that's where good work will come.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've always thought, I mean, we all like our own taste. Of course we do.
Yeah.
You know, but how to convert that taste into reality, you know, how you can actually create your own thing. You know, you need the tools, you know, you've got to have the tools, and, you know, and I think that by watching the people that I most admire, and by listening to the people I most admire, and trying to work out, broadly speaking, how they're going about it, and trying to emulate that, you know, to me, that's as good a way as any.
That's our first 5 minutes, Geoff.
Oh, right. Okay, that's easily done.
There you go. You see, it flies away. Do you want to finish that thought, though? Because I think it's an interesting point you're making.
It's really that I think, you know, I learned the way I did as a fan by watching and listening to people that I adored and revered and respected. And actually, I think that's a fantastic way of learning.
One of my favourite examples is Gaz Whelan from the Happy Mondays, and he said to me that when they went into the studio to record the first Mondays album, they were going to make a Sly and the Family Stone record. That's what they were intending to do, and what came out was their music. Absolutely, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect, and I get that. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, you know, it's been a blessing, really, because you look at all these great people and you listen to all these great records. You know, what better way to learn, man? Absolutely.
You know, and it's all free, really. You know what I mean? You can, you know, the beginning of lockdown, when everyone was in dread, right? I was properly isolated. My kids were at my ex-wife's. They had a breakout there, so there was no way they were coming back. I was properly isolated. All my works disappeared overnight.
Right.
I've got a house full of films and books. I was so excited, you know, while the world was living in dread. I was just going to watch movies and read books, you know, until this thing cleared itself up. You know, it's fantastic.
Clock's ticking now. Next film you gave me was Annie Hall. Where's Annie Hall fit then in the evolution of Geoff, the film enthusiast?
Okay, well, a few things, really. First of all, I loved how adventurous it is. Well, actually, the first thing that hit me was the level of comedy in a movie. It was a different kind of comedy from that which I'd been exposed to before, more self-aware, more sophisticated.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, you know, a little bit more neurotic, obviously. You know, a very strong kind of Jewish humour thing through it. But I'd never actually seen comedy of that nature in a film before. And I took to it kind of immediately. I was also really found it thrilling the way he just, as a director, did what he wanted. You know, it's like, oh, I want to put a piece of camera in. I'll do that then. You know, I want to switch to a cartoon. You know, I'm going to do that. I mean, there was a fantastic scene where him and Annie walk back into a scene from their youth, and they enter the scene that Annie's teenage years or whatever it was, she was, and they're standing in the room, And I'm like, this is amazing. It's so much fun. Why has no one ever thought of that before or done it before? And I can, I nicked the idea and put it in a TV show I was doing. I mean, it was just brazen stealing, really. And I thought it was, I mean, I just loved his relaxed style of filmmaking and how he didn't seem to make a big deal about doing things that were actually quite avant-garde. I mean, also, for a rom-com as well, it has an unhappy ending, but it isn't unhappy. Work that one out.
Yeah.
Work that one out. You come away quite happy. Basically, they've just grown up and lived their lives, but he has happy memories of her. She has happy memories of him. That doesn't sound earth-shatteringly different, but think of another film that's done anything like that.
No, you're right. No, because it's because film usually has to have like its epiphany, whereas so it has to be glorious and or eternity, happily ever after. Whereas like happily moving on to the next chapter is not usually the move of a film, is it?
No, it's not at all. I mean, normally you have to work hard to overcome your shortcomings, become a better person, then you get what you want, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Didn't do any of that at all. They basically they grew apart, but it's still happy.
I mean, one thing. I mean, it's not something. I mean, I shy away from comedy with writing, and into well, not that I don't do anything funny.
That's because you're not funny. That's because you're not vaguely funny, Stuart.
Oh, come on now, Geoff.
I'm joking.
But one of the main reasons is because of the idea of exposing your own neuroses. It's like it's accepting you're neurotic and then making fun of yourself, as Woody Allen does so well. Is putting it all out there, isn't he? He's not hiding anything, and I find that quite scary.
He is, but I've always thought that perhaps people. I think you choose to show one facet of yourself, and he knows he's got that side, but I don't think you get to be kind of Woody Allen, have the canon of work he does by being a neurotic person who's scared about everything.
Okay.
I think you pinpoint what sides of yourself you wish to reveal. I don't think it necessarily has to be the complete and whole unexpurgated version. I mean, maybe some people do that. I don't think in his case, I don't think so. I mean, the other thing as well also not just Annie Hall, but with Woody Allen's movies generally. I mean, I grew up with a kind of Jewish family, and I think what movie was it? I think it was Radio Days, where they're all sitting around a table, arguing, laughing, everyone talking louder to try and make themselves heard. And I can remember sitting there thinking, this is my family. And that was a real, that was a real kind of wake-up call for me. I was quite shocked. I'm like, but this is in America. How could it be my family? And I wasn't really terribly aware of kind of Jewish culture.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, I just grew up the way I grew up. No one ever told me that was Jewish culture. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But to actually see that someone in another country is right in saying it looks just like my family was kind of, it was kind of welcoming as well in a way. It was a nice thing. It was thing.
It must be. It must be.
So I think from that.
There we are, mate.
Yeah,
another 5 minutes are up.
God, I'm sorry if I rabbit on too much.
No, that's perfect. No, this is the whole point. I want to get the whole point of it is to try and capture what it is that excites you. It's not about exhausting it till we're all tired of talking. It's very much about the brevity of it. Now, we haven't got a film title, but we have got a filmmaker. So for the next 5 minutes, what is it about Almodóvar that excites you?
If I had to sum it up really briefly, it's his continued complete passion and commitment to his work, which I just find awesome and awe-inspiring. I mean, I happen to like his films as well, and I think he's a complete, I don't normally have a lot of time for auteurs being a writer, but I do make an exception for him. I think he makes unique films like no one else. They're the most incredibly Spanish films ever. That he's a unique man. Being kind of a gay filmmaker in those post-Franco years. You know, there's no one's ever going to be doing what he's done ever again. It's a one-off.
Yeah. He sort of charts
I
his own
love
history.
Yeah, totally. And I like the fact that whatever kind of movie he skips around to, it's still in, you know, if it's a horror movie or some melodrama or a really trite comedy, they're all immediately recognizable as Almodóvar movies. I love that he can do that. I love how beautiful his sets are. I think he's got the best musical taste ever. You know, he
I hadn't thought about it. Yeah, no, he does. He really does put music to the fore, doesn't he?
Oh, I mean, he's got fantastic. I mean, an artist that I've been adoring for years began, I think I heard her in Kika, Travella Vargas, you know, who's a fantastic singer. I first heard it was one of his songs and I just couldn't stop singing it. I think it was from Kika. And, you know, I think he's got exquisite taste. I went to see that, you know, he's got that short Western out, Strange Way of Life.
I've not, I don't know. No. That's well.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but he turned down the gig for Brokeback Mountain because he didn't think that he would be given the freedom that he demands to do what he wanted.
Okay.
But he's made a short of, I think, probably what he might have done. It's a gay Western. It's two cowboys. And it's all right. It's fine. It's perfectly good. Who's it with? I can't remember their names.
Ethan Hawke.
Anyway, Ethan Hawke and
Pedro Pascal.
The annoyingly good-looking guy, him. I mean, it's very good. It's very good. It's only a 30-minute movie. But when I saw it, there was a Q&A with him afterwards, right? His drive and passion still. I mean, there is not a second of that film, an item of clothing worn by someone, a picture on a wall, a note of music playing that is not designed and desired by him. It's a reference to this. It's a reference to that. And the exuberance that he spoke about it with. And, you know, it's just, wow, you know, that's what I want to be like. That's one of the things that actually put me off of being a screenwriter and still does, is the fact that you're never really given that kind of freedom.
No,
you know,
you're
just one small part of the machine and do your job and, you know, go on. But to see his drive, I thought it was just really inspiring. And the woman interviewing him made the mistake of saying to him, do you think, you know, after that film ended, it's only 30 minutes, do you think that they would eventually end up together? He looked like he was about to explode and then talked her through the next hour of what the movie would be.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, that's what I want to feel like on something that I'm doing, you know.
Yeah.
That's the kind of freedom I would like and the passion that I want. And I find that awesomely inspiring. I mean, I also like that from the very beginning, you know, one of the things that definitely impacted on me was his use of really what we then thought of as unconventional characters, you know, having gay characters or transsexual characters, or and to put them in, you know, pivotal roles and actually still make the movies quite cheerful as well. You know, it's not like, oh, we're dealing with these subjects, it's got to be really heavy. These characters were often really happy and fun, and they were so different from the kind of protagonists that I was used to seeing in English,
without a doubt,
and American movies,
without
you
a
know,
doubt,
and it absolutely 100%. There was a direct line between seeing that and, you know, writing in the character in Kinky Boots. I mean, that was a mixture of that and having worked with Divine. It was those two things, you know, so it was really direct, not even a subtle influence, you know.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, but seeing the opportunity and then channeling it into into the story you want to tell.
Yeah, I'd liked my story to have been more. I mean, you know, I butted heads quite a lot with the powers that be on that, because I wanted it to be a little bit more extravagant and colourful. I think the show ultimately embraced the character more than the film did.
Right.
because I think it's the stage, and they naturally favour
Of
that
course.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now,
Now we've got to the end of 5 minutes again, but I just want to pick up one of the things you gave me that we've not touched on is, and there's a few things you gave me as prompts, but I'd love to know about a canned story while writing for Elton John. If you can share that with me before we go.
Oh yeah, no, it's quite funny. I had a film out called "It's a Boy Girl Thing" that was, screening during the film festival, not as part of the film festival, I should point out. A high school body swap movie replete with a King's Ransom and knob gags was never going to be a hot contender for the Palme d'Or. But it was being screened as part of the sales promotion.
Yeah, in the
marketplace.
In the marketplace.
Yeah, and more importantly, Elton was throwing a big bash at his chateau for it and screening the movie, which is not a bad day out.
No.
Come on, let's be honest. So I'm at the chateau early, walking around the place. It's like I've never walked in a house like it in my life. It's like the most fantastic. It's like an art gallery. It's just beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. And then trying really hard to be on the best P's and Q's. Decided not to drink. I thought that would be a good. Well, I thought I'm there a long time, and I have a fondness for alcohol, as you may have heard.
I think I've seen.
Yeah, well, sometimes I hadn't behaved terribly well at the premiere of Kinky Boots. I had a little bit of a set to with a Disney exec who I didn't really take to. She told me I'd never work in this town again.
Oh, blimey!
Smitten down by a cliche in the prime of my career. You know what I mean? It was like. But I really liked Elton and David. They've been nothing but gracious and supportive. So I didn't want to mess up. So I was kind of, I sobered the night out, mingled with the great and the good. Met Lulu. Told her, I said to her, "You really made me want to shout." Didn't get a laugh, nothing at all. Right. So I've done everything kind of, shaking hands with everyone that I was meant to. And then it came to the screening of the film, and the film hadn't turned up. Right. I mean, I think it had been FedExed over or whatever by Icon or whoever was dealing with it. And I don't know if it's the same now. Actually, it might be, but in those days, when it gets to the other country, it kind of gets re-raffled off to kind of local people who deliver it.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
And it had been taken by a father and son team who, as it turned out, didn't work Sundays. So you've got this huge ball going on at this fabulous chateau, all for this movie with like posters and this and everything like that. And the movie didn't turn up. It was like, I thought, we were going to see one of Elton's hissy fits, but that didn't happen. They managed to get it rescreened the following day at a cinema in town. I remember sitting there next to a friend of mine who's also a comedy writer. And I said to him, I was really nervous with the situation. I really felt like I'm being judged here. I said to him, I really hate watching my own work. He said, "Don't worry, you're in good company. So does everyone else." Thanks a lot, mate. But the thing is, funny thing is, actually, this is in the book. Sounds like a book plug, but wasn't really intended to be. But I was still really buzzing. It had been like a really exciting thing to happen to me. Anyway, I got home as I walked into my house when I arrived back in London, which was the day after. And my entire house was flooded. A pipe had burst, right? And at 2 a.m, I'm still on the phone to a plumber trying to work out what a stopcock is, and it's like my life, man, like 1 foot there, never the twain shall meet,
Well, look, that's a perfect story to end on. From mohair suits to kinky boots, how music, clothes and going out shaped my life and upset my mother by Geoff Deane is out now. And it just gives me to say thank you very much for joining us on the Britflicks podcast.
Stuart, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. I was worried we wouldn't have sufficient to talk about, but there you go. I haven't stopped yakking.
I wasn't worried one bit, Geoff.
Yeah, I mean, I could actually talk to you for another hour now, easily, because we haven't really spoken that much about movies. I could speak a lot more about movies.
Well, look, no, we've got plenty there, and I just thank you for it.
We should go for a pint again one night.
Indeed.
It's been a while.